Good afternoon, and welcome to the Wednesday afternoon conference call with Trusts Unlimited. This is Jim George speaking. I'm the non-attorney spokesman and facilitator for Trusts Unlimited, and I'd like to wish all of you a happy New Year. I hope you had a wonderful Christmas, New Year holiday. I certainly did. As a matter of fact, I just got back into town last night, and so I was working a little overtime preparing for this afternoon's call. I'd like to thank all of you for joining us, particularly those of you calling in for the first time and those that will be listening to the replay over the next couple of days. And most of the people that listen do, in fact, listen for the replay when it's more convenient for them. We understand the importance of getting the information out to you quickly, bottom lining that essential information. And so to that extent, we make these calls available to you at any time. We have a standard format that we work with. Before I get into that, one other thing I want to mention, individuals that have called us in the last week or so, perhaps as far out as 10 days, you will be hearing from me very shortly in the next day or two. Again, I was on vacation. It's unfortunate that the gurus continue from time to time to create unnecessary hysteria with individuals. So let me briefly make the statement. It is our firm belief that none of these pre-valued currencies will reval prior to the Iraqi dinar. It is our belief that the dinar will go first. And the Iraqi dinar simply cannot revalue until it has been reinstated in country. So as long as the Iraqi dinar has not reinstated in country, there will be no global revaluation of the currency, and the IMF will not take it out of a program rate. So for those individuals that unfortunately were led to believe that the revaluation was to occur any moment between Christmas and New Year, I'm sorry for the hysteria that was created. It was completely unnecessary. And frankly, these gurus are really beginning to anger me because the disinformation campaign that's been going on for over 5 years must either stop or people must stop listening to these individuals. Again, there will be no revaluation of the Iraqi dinar until the currency reinstitutes in country. So that is going to be your heads up when that occurs and not before. Sorry to get into that, but I had to deal with that because it's unfortunate that over the holidays people were losing sleep over the nonsense that was being spilled out by some of these individuals. Now, we have a standard format here. We spend a few minutes talking about the revaluation of these currencies, most particularly the Iraqi dinar. We spend a few minutes talking about the program we've put in place to assist you, and then we get into a little Q&A. So let's go ahead and get started. First, by way of disclaimer, Trusts Unlimited is not the purveyor of the dinar and these other currencies. We're not advocating the purchase or sale of these currencies. But as substantial currency holders ourselves, we're merely sharing with you the information that we feel is relevant. Now, with regard to the window for the revaluation, or rather the reinstitution and then the revaluation of the Iraqi dinar, we are still looking at the first quarter of this year, which we have now entered. We sincerely hope that this reval will occur on or before February 15th for two reasons. Number one, it will give us time to ascertain what the tax implications will be for taxes that would be due on April 15th. And in the event that the currency comes out initially at a low float, that will allow us time to watch that currency appreciate further. Now, again, we're looking at the first quarter of this year as a reval or reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar. What points to that is a number of things. There is substantial global interest, movement, and momentum towards Iraq. For example, their 2019 budget is now being funded not solely through the issuance of domestic bonds, but through loans from some 24 foreign sources, whether they be private or international banks or central banks of governments. Now, this is important because the international community has invested nearly $3 trillion into Iraq since 2003, and the fact that they're now assisting with the 2019 budget is because they want to see the revaluation of the Iraqi dinar, and they want to get paid for the international contracts for the rebuilding of the infrastructure of Iraq. So this is good news. Now, there is an important parliamentary session scheduled for the 8th of this month. That's less than a week away. There will be a vote on the Interior and Defense Ministers. These two positions seem to be the sticking block for the formation of the new government, Mahdi's new government. There will be a vote on the amended oil and gas law. There will be a vote on the reinstatement of Article 140 of the Constitution. And there will be a vote on the 3-year extension of the U.S. Status of Forces Agreement. Now, all of these issues are important to the reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar. And it is possible that some of these issues will not be resolved at that parliamentary session on the 8th. But they are moving in the right direction. And anything that does not get voted on in the 8th, they could reschedule a vote within a week. So by January 15th, it's plausible that all of these issues, these final remaining issues, could be dealt with. There have also been renewed investigations into corrupt officials, dealing with auctions fraud, dealing with misappropriation and embezzlement of bank funds, and dealing with the mysterious destruction of 7 billion water-damaged dinar. So they hope to complete that as well. Now, the new Prime Minister Mahdi is seeking cooperation, has contacted Assad in Syria directly in order to resolve the Iraqi border security issues, and that's important. Mahdi also seeks resolution of the financial agreement dealing with financial issues with Jordan and resolving those issues as well. So everything, again, continues to move in the right direction. The holdup is actually a functional issue, has to do with the parliamentary system in general. In the United States, we are a representative republic. There is gridlock, but that occurs when one branch is occupied by one party, one branch is occupied by another party, and they cannot resolve their differences. But in a parliamentary system, there are many parties frequently. They need to form coalitions in order to get things done. In order to form coalitions, all kinds of concessions need to be made. Unlike our system, a prime minister can be removed not only through an impeachment process, but simply through a no-confidence vote. So a parliamentary system inherently possesses the greater possibility of gridlock. So a lot of the problem we're dealing with are not the reforms that needed to be done, but the simple process involved in a parliamentary system. Having said all of that, however, I still feel that the first quarter looks very, very good for the reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar. And once that reinstitution has taken place, given all of the other agreements that have already been made with the IMF, the UN, and the World Bank, the reinstatement, or rather the revaluation of the Iraqi dinar globally should come shortly thereafter. Now, having said that, there is probably little time left to get your affairs in order, or even understanding what that involves prior to the revaluation of the dinar and these other currencies. Trusts Unlimited has put a turnkey program in place to assist you. It is a two-phased program. Phase 1 is pre-RV. Phase 2 is post-RV. Pre-RV involves the establishment of a pre-RV package of asset protection trusts with the assignment of your currencies on paper to that trust package. Phase 2 involves all of the products, services, and professional referrals that will be made available to you after the revaluation of these currencies. So let's start with Phase 1, which is the establishment of your pre-RV package of asset protection trusts. Very simply, a trust is a legal instrument one can establish to hold, to manage, and to protect assets. Trust can fall in some basic categories. For example, a trust can be revocable, or a trust package can be irrevocable. In order to have the asset protection you're going to need and want, you're going to need to establish a package of irrevocable trusts for the following reasons. First, by establishing this trust package, you will preserve your privacy and your anonymity. That's because assets held within an irrevocable trust are sealed, and the general public will have no knowledge of your net worth or your actual holdings. Second, by establishing this trust package, you will be able to successfully avoid IRS scrutiny personally. If you're holding these currencies in direct title, once the revaluation occurs, the IRS computers will most likely spit out an audit. And with the potential magnitude of this revaluation, you're probably going to be looking at a full-blown 6-year audit. Now, such an audit's going to be time-consuming, it's going to be frustrating, and frankly, it's probably going to cost you more than the asset protection trust package. On the other hand, if your trust package is in place, your pre-RV trust package, and your currencies have been assigned to that trust package, you have successfully transferred the taxable event of this revaluation from yourself personally to the trust. Now, this is important for several reasons. First, there's less than a 10% chance of an audit if this revaluation, the taxable event of this revaluation, occurs within the trust. But second, and most importantly, even if the IRS determines to audit your trust, they cannot do a 6-year audit. Why? Because the only taxable event within the trust will be the revaluation itself. The third reason for establishing this trust package involves gifting. Philanthropic gifting can always be done on a tax-preferred basis, either pre- or post-RV. But in order to avoid a substantial 40% federal gift tax, gifting currencies to family and friends needs to be done pre-RV. Now, if you're gifting to individuals that you have no problem giving them the currency to exchange for themselves, or giving them the lump sum after you've done the exchange, that can be accomplished outside of a trust with a standard gift letter. But if you are hesitant for any reason to give these individuals that lump sum, you can gift to them through our exclusive gift subtrust, which is part of our asset protection trust package. By gifting through this subtrust, you will avoid the 40% federal gift tax. The language of this subtrust allows you to gift up to a certain currency or currencies, meaning you can give these individuals the exact U.S. dollar amount you had in mind, irrespective of the exchange rate. But because you're gifting through this gift subtrust, not only will their U.S. dollars be protected along with yours, but you will be able to invest, manage, and distribute this money to these individuals as you deem appropriate. And again, this is accomplished through an exclusive gift subtrust, which we have created as part of our package. The fourth reason you would want to establish this pre-RV asset protection gift trust package is because it's been structured in such a way as to allow your estate to bypass the cost and delay of probate and the federal estate tax. I'll give you 2 quick scenarios. Scenario number 1, you purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000. The day after that, those currencies revalue for $25 million. The day after that, you pass away, leaving your heirs an estate of $25 million. That estate must now go through probate, a process that ordinarily can take anywhere from 6 to 18 months. But probate is a public disclosure process, meaning that the general public will be aware of the size of your estate, who your heirs are, and how much they each stand to inherit. So if anyone feels they have a legitimate claim against you, your estate, or your heirs, they can simply file that claim with a probate court. And that could tie the estate up for years, and in some cases, even decades. And your heirs will have either limited access or no access at all to their respective inheritance until the probate process is completed. Then there's something called the federal estate tax. This is the tax which the federal government will assess in order for that estate to be transferred to heirs. Under current law, approximately $10 million of that $25 million estate would bypass any federal estate tax. But the balance could be taxed as much as 55%. Scenario number 2, you purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000. The day after that, you assign those currencies on paper to our asset protection trust package. The day after that, you pass away. The day after that, those currencies revalue for $25 million. The day after that, you pass away, leaving your heirs in a state of $25 million, but this time protected in our asset protection trust package. As a result, there will be no probate, there will be no public disclosure of your estate, your heirs will have immediate access to their respective inheritance, and the federal estate tax will be zero, saving your heirs as much as 55% of their inheritance. The fifth reason you'd want to establish this pre-RV package of asset protection trusts is for some very specific asset protection benefits. One pre-RV, one post-RV. Pre-RV, this trust package will allow you to circumvent something called the Uniform Fraudulent Transfer Act. What does that mean? Under our system of civil procedure, you can only be sued for what you own in direct title or the value of property at the time you transfer it out of title to an entity like our trust package. So let's take the previous example from before. You purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000, transfer those currencies to our trust. They subsequently revalue for $25 million. You begin to live a lifestyle more reflective of your newfound wealth, and a couple of years down the road, someone sees that you're living rather comfortably and decides for whatever reason that they're going to sue you. Well, this prospective plaintiff has a couple of problems. First, he or she better have a very strong case and very deep pockets, because this trust is structured in such a way as to make it extremely expensive and extremely time-consuming to pursue civil litigation. Second, and most importantly, once the prospective plaintiff learns that pursuant to the Uniform Fraudulent Transfer Act, the only thing they could ever win by way of a civil award would be $5,000. The value of the currencies at the time you transferred them to the trust, and none of the post-RV value of $25 million, there will be no lawsuit. Post-RV, there's a benefit I like to refer to as limited liability stop loss. This is accomplished through a legal strategy called segregation of assets, and this is designed to protect your wealth after you have accumulated this wealth, and in the event, unfortunately, of a bad act. We'll use the same example. You purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000, transfer the currencies to your trust, they revalue for $25 million. Now you have $25 million in trust, and you decide to make some purchases. So you purchase a larger primary residence, a vacation home, perhaps a half a dozen rental properties for tax write-off and additional cash flow, a couple of cars, a boat, and let's say an RV. But as you purchase these items, you place each of them in their own separate subtrust to be managed by your master trust. Again, why do we do this? In order to protect this newfound wealth from any potentially bad act. Now, what do I mean by a bad act? Well, let's say one day you're driving one of your new cars, you have an accident, the accident is clearly your fault, and tragically someone is seriously injured or even killed. Well, the family of the victim is going to want to sue you. But remember, civil suits are about monetary awards, and you don't legally own anything. So the plaintiffs would be left to sue the owner of the car that you were driving. Well, who owns that car? One of your subtrusts of which you are merely the beneficiary. And what's in that subtrust? Merely that one car and the car insurance policy. In that scenario, the car insurance carrier will negotiate an out-of-court settlement with the victim's family. You will not be involved in those rather unpleasant negotiations. The car insurance carrier will repair or replace your car, making you whole. And all of your other assets are safely protected in other subtrusts. Now, why are those assets protected in those other subtrusts? Because under the law, those separate subtrusts are separate legal entities, and the plaintiffs would have no standing to pursue those entities. So your trust package works very much the way a barge would work, where all of the valuable cargo is stored in a series of small compartments. Why? In the event that any compartment is ever breached, the only potential loss would be the cargo in that one compartment. The cargo in the other compartments is safe and secure due to the firewalls, and the barge will never sink. Now, these benefits are lost to you if you do not establish a package of irrevocable trusts prior to the revaluation of the dinar and these other currencies. Now, there is one other benefit, and it's this. If you are, in fact, the holder of one of our pre-RV asset protection trust packages, then you will be eligible to participate in all the products, services, and professional referrals that will be made available to you under Phase 2 post-RV. I'll just make mention of one here today. Trusts Unlimited will be sponsoring a post-RV seminar to be held in Disney World, Florida, approximately 30 days after the revaluation of the Iraqi dinar. Present at that seminar will, of course, be the staff of Trusts Unlimited to assist you with the management and funding of your trust packages post-RV. In addition, many of our clients have expressed desires to establish scholarship funds, foundational trusts, special needs trusts, charitable remainder trusts, and even the more complicated 501c3 nonprofit and offshore trusts. And the proper way to fund those entities is by transferring funds directly from your pre-RV trust to those newly formed entities. We'll also have our tax specialists on hand. Our offshore specialists will show you that by establishing offshore title of certain assets, you can substantially reduce and in some cases eliminate future taxes on the investment proceeds from the revaluation itself. We'll also have our independent fee-based wealth managers there as well. It's going to be important for you to reposition assets after the revaluation for a number of reasons. First, we know statistically that 95% of all windfalls, however large and from whatever source, are lost within 3 to 5 years due to inexperience, mismanagement, and fraud. We also know that under the new G20 bank bail-in provisions, the failure of banks in the future will no longer be made whole through the general taxing authority of the respective governments, but first and foremost by the confiscation of funds at those banks. So you're going to want to get money out of the banks and it work in other markets as quickly as possible. And third, we know the general global shift from fiat-based to commodity-based currencies in and of itself is going to create extremely volatile financial markets, and you're going to want to transfer assets to tangible investments as quickly as possible. Now, our trust package is initially a package of 10 trusts consisting of one master trust, which will hold your currency, your pre-RV currency assignment, and then after the revaluation holds your financial assets like bank accounts and investment accounts. One gift subtrust, which will hold your gifted currencies, but can be converted at any time to a standard subtrust. and then 8 additional sub-trusts that hold physical assets like homes, cars, boats, etc. Now, this was the simplification of a rather sophisticated trust package that we've utilized in the past for our more affluent clients, a package that had an initial cost of anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000. But a few years back, when we decided to work with denarians, we knew that that price tag was going to be simply unaffordable for too many. So by restructuring this trust package, we've been able to reduce the cost to $3,000. Now, there are several ways you can pay for that. If you pay us up front, we'll discount the price further to $2,500, saving you an additional $500. If that's not possible, we do have a deferred payment arrangement. You'd make an initial payment of $525, which sum would basically offset our out-of-pocket costs just to produce and deliver your trust. The balance of the $3,000 would then be paid in $100 monthly installments. We will charge no interest. The only proviso is once the revaluation of the Iraqi dinar occurs, any unpaid balance would need to be paid within 30 days. So with this funding mechanism, anyone that has currencies and understands the need for getting their trust package in place pre-RV should be in a position to afford to do so. One other suggestion, we do accept credit cards. Pay us up front with a credit card. Not only will you get the $500 discount, but the minimum payment on your credit card would be less than the $100 a month you'd pay under our deferred payment arrangement. But we will work with you in whatever method works best for you. Our objective is to help you get your trust in place and your affairs in order for all of the reasons that we've discussed here today. Now, I will be going to a Q&A in just a moment. Before I do, I want to tell you just a little bit about Trusts Unlimited and why you may want to seriously consider allowing us to assist you. Our trust package was authored by our attorney, Robert Bly. He's been a practicing attorney for over 40 years, specializing in the areas of estate planning, asset protection, and offshore planning. I myself hold degrees in political science, macroeconomics, and finance. I've worked in these areas for over 38 years, and I, along with my clients, were personally involved in the reinstitution of the Kuwaiti dinar in the early 90s. So between the two of us, Robert Bly and I have over 78 years' experience working precisely in this area, and I frankly know of no firm that can make that claim. Now, Bob and I have been working together for a decade in the areas of estate planning, asset protection, and offshore planning, and it has been disheartening from time to time to see people walk away from sound estate planning and trust creation because of the mistaken belief that by doing so they have somehow lost control of their assets and their affairs. In point of fact, it's just the reverse. It's when you hold assets in direct title that you can lose control of them. And invariably, it's at precisely those times in life that you need and want control. If you've lived for any length of time, you've either experienced in your own life or through friends and family things like unexpected divorce, permanent incapacitation, the onset of dementia, premature death and prolonged and complicated probate processes. Then there are investment losses, business losses, and even bankruptcies. The number 2 loss of wealth now in the aggregate, courtesy of the information age, is identity theft. But the number 1 loss of personal wealth remains confiscation through civil litigation. Anything you own in direct title can be taken from you. So in point of fact, the only way that you can manage, protect, and control everything at all times and in all circumstances is through the establishment of a package of irrevocable trusts, and particularly if you have an asset like these currencies that you're anticipating a substantial increase in value. And we at Trusts Unlimited will do everything we can to help you accomplish your personal and financial objectives both pre- and post-RV as we understand them. Again, I'd like to thank you for listening to today's call and wishing you all a happy and prosperous new year. I think we're well on our way to accomplishing that. I'm going to go to the Q&A here. For those of you calling in for the first time who might be interested in getting our initial package, have a pen and paper ready. I'm going to give you our contact information. You are under absolutely no obligation whatsoever to get our initial package, although it contains everything you need if you decide to proceed with the establishment of a pre-RV asset protection trust package. But you can review the information, contact us if you have any questions. We'll be happy to help you in any way that we can, and there will be no consultation fee. I'm going to open the Q&A now. 2 quick rules on the Q&A. We take no service calls on the Q&A. This is reserved for questions regarding our program, and for obvious reasons, your name and number must be on the screen in order to participate in the Q&A. So I'm going to go ahead and open the Q&A now. And while I'm waiting for any potential questions, I'd like to give you our contact information. You can go to our website, which is trustsunlimitedllc.com. Our email address is trustsunlimitedllc@gmail.com. Our phone service is 307-274-4122. If you'd like to listen to a recent conference call playback, or if you'd be kind enough to refer us to someone that might be interested in our services, you can either go to YouTube and then go to Trusts Unlimited, or you can go to IQD calls and go to Trusts Unlimited, or you can simply dial the same number that you dialed for this live call with the exception of the last 2 digits. Rather than dialing 40, you'll dial 39 and then use the same access code, which is 739-394#. If you'd like to be included on our email list, you go to our website, go to the bottom, enter your name and email address where indicated. You should be on our email list within 24 hours. Bear in mind that we only send emails out very periodically pre-RV, but after the revaluation of these currencies, valuable information may be going out via email on a daily basis. I'm going to go to the Q&A now, but let me just state one more time for the record. We received a number of contacts by phone and email over the last 7 to 10 days. I, of course, have been on vacation, so if you have not heard from me, whatever your issue is, you will be hearing from me before the end of business on Friday. I will be manning the phones today, tomorrow, and if necessary, Friday, to make sure that everyone's been contacted, all service issues have been dealt with. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. So our first caller here is area code 312. That's 312. Go ahead.
Hey, Jim. How are you? Good morning.
Hey, Les, how you doing, my friend? Happy New Year to you.
I'm sorry. I have a head cold.
I actually have one myself.
Happy New Year to you. It doesn't kick in until it's time for me to ask my question. Yeah. So, thanks for everything. Hope the professor's doing fine.
He certainly is.
He is. Okay, great. The funding of these other countries that are funding the 2019 budget for Iraq, how does that happen, and how does that speed this thing up to where we can get finished?
There's 2 aspects to this. The fact that it's happening is good news because what it means is this is absolute proof that the international community is interested in the resurgence of Iraq because that's the only way that they're going to reap the benefit from the money and the treasure in human lives that has been spent to save this country. That's number one. Now, there's a number of ways lending or assistance can be done. Assistance can be done through simple loans. Assistance can be done in exchange, for example, for money. They could receive oil credits. They could receive first refusal contracts for rebuilding the infrastructure in Iraq. There's all kinds of things that are going on. Remember, Iraq per square mile may be the richest country in the world. They have the 2nd largest known oil reserves in the world. In addition, it's the sweetest crude in the world, which means it's much, much easier to refine. It can be used for a number of products. Many people don't understand that only about a third of petroleum, once it's been refined, is used in the combustion engine. 2/3 is used for the production of glass, plastics, rubber, electronics, nanotechnologies, and the like. In addition, because of the Tigris-Euphrates Delta there, all of the silt for thousands of years have flown down that area, which means it's rich in all kinds of minerals, platinum, gold, silver, copper, all kinds of industrial metals, and because it's not mountainous and rather flat, it's also easily mined. Then you go not only to that issue, but geopolitically, Iraq is located as the gateway between the East and the West. So we have the West that's very interested in the oil and all the natural resources. We have the Chinese from the East that are having the Silk Road Initiative, which they want to build as trade route, and they need Iraq in order to complete all of that. So for all of these reasons, geopolitically, in terms of their natural resources, it's just literally a gold mine. So that's why it's important for these countries to be involved, because they see the future financially for them as well as for Iraq has to do with making sure that 2019 budget is completed, that Iraq meets its standby agreement with the international community, the memorandum of understanding with the IMF and the like.
Yeah, well, they have all those good credentials, but they have yet to prove anything. They have 2 more seats that need to be filled. Is that right?
Right. Yes, defense and interior. And, I mentioned earlier in the call about the problem that tends to develop when you have a parliamentary system is gridlock. But you lay on top of that the fact that we're dealing with a tribal culture anyway. We're dealing with Shia, we're dealing with Sunni, we're dealing with Kurds, and then we're dealing with the local little, for lack of a better word, little warlords that run their little fiefdoms locally. So it's a complicated on a lot of levels, and there's a lot of layers involved here. But I think that there's a good chance that by the 15th of January, this could all be resolved. I do not expect all of the issues to be resolved in the January 8th parliamentary session, but I think there's a good chance that subsequent session could get this stuff resolved. So, I'm optimistic at this point because they've come so far and they're so close. I just think it's going to happen.
Okay, so if they did all of this, they only have the 2. What was the purpose? They only have the 2 seats that they need to fill. What was the purpose of Pence and all the other legal heads or government heads calling and congratulating Iraq last week on completing their government if they still need 2 people?
It's just PR. It's just PR. And remember, Trump went there. There's a lot of things going on behind the scenes we don't know about. But another important thing that happened, which I mentioned, was the 3-year extension of the status of forces agreements. So that's going to ensure that the Syrian border remains closed to ISIS and these other nefarious characters, that the green zone will be fully opened, and that they'll get a handle on the Iranian militias that are still running around. So, like I said, there's a lot of layers to this, but it's all moving in the right direction.
Thank you, sir. Enjoy your new year.
Same to you.
And thanks again for taking my call. Yeah, I will. I'm getting over the hump.
Okay, take care, Les. Bye-bye.
Have a great day. Bye.
Well, Les was our only call for this afternoon, but he always seems to ask an open-ended question, which allows me to present a lot of information. Again, I'd like to thank all of you for listening to the call. I hope you will contact us if the information is of interest. Again, you're under absolutely no obligation whatsoever by receiving our package. It has a lot of valuable information about us, about the evaluation, about trusts in general. You can contact us if you have any questions. We'll be happy to answer your questions. There will be no consultation fee, and everything you need, if you should decide to proceed, is included in that package. Our next call is scheduled for next Wednesday, 12 noon, 9 a.m. Pacific. Certainly, if something of a dramatic nature were to happen between now and then, we will try to get out an emergency email and schedule an emergency call. Failing that, we will be back next Wednesday afternoon, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Bye-bye, everyone, and have a great week.